He called my daughter his leverage. He threatened my grandchildren in my own garage, demanding my life savings like I owed it to him. He thought I was just an old mechanic, worn out and ready for the scrap heap. He was about to learn that these greasy hands knew how to dismantle more than just engines. My garage was my church. The smell of old grease, metal shavings, and strong coffee usually calmed me. For 40 years I ran Vance & Sons Auto Repair. I built it from nothing. I knew the sound of a failing transmission just by listening. I knew the scent of burning oil. I knew how to fix things that were broken. But as I stood there, wiping my hands on a rag, I realized I didn't know how to fix the man standing in front of me. It was Mark, my son-in-law. Mark stood out in my workshop like a tuxedo at a barbecue. His shoes were Italian leather, shiny. His suit looked like it cost more than my monthly pension. His hands were soft, uncalloused. Mark stood out in my workshop like a tuxedo at a barbecue. His shoes were Italian leather, shiny. His suit looked like it cost more than my monthly pension. His hands were soft, uncalloused. The hands of a man who never had to fight for anything. He'd married my daughter, Clara, 3 years ago. He was all charm and big talk back then. Investment strategies, real estate ventures, a future paved with gold. Clara loved him. She was blinded by the shine. And because I loved Clara more than anything in the world, I tried to love him too. I tried. But something about him always felt loose, like a bolt that wouldn't tighten. Arthur, we need to talk. Mark didn't usually come to my garage. He preferred sterile environments, places that didn't smell like sweat and hard work. His face was tight, pale. A nervous energy buzzed around him, like a frayed wire sparking in the dark. He kept adjusting his cuffs, a nervous tick. This wasn't a social call. "What's on your mind, Mark?" I asked. I leaned back against my workbench. The metal was cool against my back. I kept my voice steady. A mechanic learns to listen to the engine before it blows. He paced the small space between my toolbox and the engine hoist. He wouldn't look at me. He just stared at the oil stains on the concrete floor. The silence stretched. It felt heavy, ominous. Finally, he spoke. "I find myself in a situation, Arthur." He stopped pacing, smoothed his expensive tie. A temporary liquidity problem. I waited. I knew this language. It was the language of people who never wanted to admit they were broke. It was the language of desperation masked by arrogance. "A liquidity problem," I repeated, flatly. "That sounds serious." "It is," he said quickly. Too quickly. "But it's manageable. I just need a bridge loan. Short term." "A bridge loan," I said. "From me." He nodded. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. "How much?" I asked, the dread pooling in my stomach. He hesitated. He took a deep breath. Then he finally looked me straight in the eye. The charm was gone. In its place was something cold, hard, desperate. "I need $100,000. He didn't blink. Then he added the kicker. "By Friday." The number hit me like a physical blow. $100,000. That wasn't a bridge loan. That was most of my life savings. The money my wife Susan and I had scrimped and saved for decades. We skipped vacations, drove old cars, clipped coupons, all so we could retire comfortably, all so we could leave something for Clara and the grandkids. He wanted to erase 40 years of sacrifice in 3 days. My throat tightened. I couldn't speak for a moment. The only sound was the buzzing of the old fluorescent light overhead. "Mark, I finally managed, my voice quiet. "That's nearly everything I have. I'm retired. I don't have that kind of cash just lying around." I expected him to understand, to realize the magnitude of what he was asking. I was wrong. His face hardened. The polite mask slipped, and what I saw underneath was ugly. "Don't give me that, Arthur," he snapped. His voice lost its polished edge. It was sharp now, cruel. He stepped closer, invading my space. "I know you sold the shop last year," he spat. "I know you have investments. This house is paid off." He gestured around the garage as if it were a bank vault. "You have it, and I need it." The entitlement was staggering. He spoke as if my life's work was simply a piggy bank, his piggy bank, ready for him to smash open whenever he felt like it. He wasn't asking. He was demanding. He thought he had me cornered. He thought wrong. "Why?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "What kind of trouble are you in?" He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. He messed it up for the first time I'd ever seen. The desperation was rolling off him in waves. "Bad investments," he said. the lie slipping easily off his tongue. The market turned south. I leveraged myself too heavily. He started pacing again. Faster this time. The people I owe, he paused, his eyes darting around the garage. They are not patient. I knew he wasn't telling the whole truth. Mark always played fast and loose with money. He liked the high life, the expensive restaurants, the tailored suits. But this level of desperation felt different. It felt dangerous. If it's investments, I said, testing him, trying to reason with him, surely you can negotiate terms, declare bankruptcy. He slammed his fist on my workbench. A wrench rattled and fell to the concrete floor. The clang echoed in the sudden silence. The sound made me jump, but I didn't let him see it. I held his gaze. "This isn't the bank, old man?" he snarled. The veneer of civilization was completely gone. I was looking at the real Mark now, and the real Mark was a snake. "These are serious people," he hissed. "They don't negotiate. They collect." He stepped closer again. I could smell the fear on him, masked by expensive cologne. It was a sickening combination. "Listen to me very carefully," he whispered, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "I am drowning." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "Thick and poisonous. And I will not go down alone." I waited. My heart hammered in my chest. But I kept my face still. Then he delivered the killing blow. "Either you give me this money," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, "or your wife will regret it." My blood ran cold. Susan. My Susan. She had been gone for 5 years. He didn't mean Susan. He meant Clara. "Clara?" My voice was a strangled whisper. "What does Clara have to do with this?" A cruel smile twisted his lips. It was the ugliest thing I had ever seen. "She's my wife," he said, as if it explained everything. "My liability," he spat the word out. "My leverage." He leaned in closer. I could see the sweat beading on his forehead. "These men know where I live, Arthur," he continued. "They know who I'm married to. They suggested that if I can't pay," he let the sentence hang unfinished. He didn't need to finish it. "Perhaps they should pay Clara and the kids a visit." I couldn't breathe. The air in the garage suddenly felt thin, suffocating. He was using my daughter, my grandchildren, as a shield, a bargaining chip. The sheer monstrosity of it was staggering. I looked at the man who had stood at the altar and promised to protect my daughter, and I saw a coward, a monster hiding behind a facade of success. He was willing to sacrifice his own family to save himself. A wave of nausea rolled over me, followed immediately by a strange, focused calm. It was the same calm that used to settle over me when faced with a catastrophic engine failure. Panic was useless. Rage was a distraction. I needed clarity. I looked down at my hands. They were eared, wrinkled. The nails permanently stained with grease. They were the hands of a man who had spent his life solving problems, analyzing systems, finding the weak points. Mark Thompson was just another broken system, and I was about to tear him down to the frame. I took a deep breath. I looked up at him. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, slowly, silently. Mark's posture relaxed instantly. The tension drained out of his shoulders. A smirk, ugly and triumphant, spread across his face. He thought he had won. He thought my nod was a surrender. He thought I was weak. "Good," he said, straightening his tie, the polished mask sliding back into place. "Smart choice, Arthur. Friday, noon, cash. Small bills. Don't be late." I didn't respond. I just watched him walk out of my garage, his Italian shoes clicking on the concrete. He thought I was going to the bank. He thought I was defeated, a scared old man rushing to liquidate his life savings to appease him. He was wrong. I wasn't going to get the money. I was going to get something else entirely. Something that would turn his carefully constructed life into a living nightmare. I waited until I heard his expensive car pull out of the driveway. The silence of the garage settled around me, heavy and cold. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear, crystal clear. I walked over to the old, dented filing cabinet in the corner of the garage. It was locked with a heavy-duty padlock. Susan used to joke that I kept the secrets of the universe in there. She wasn't entirely wrong. I unlocked it and pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside were files, meticulously labeled, not just old repair orders and tax returns, but records. 40 years in business taught me one fundamental truth. Always keep a record. When Clara first brought Mark home, I wanted to like him. I truly did, but something about his ambition felt too sharp, too hungry. His eyes never quite matched his smile. A few months after the wedding, I started noticing things, little things. Clara stopped wearing the jewelry Susan had left her. Mark bought a new sports car while Clara worried about the rising cost of diapers. She seemed quieter, more hesitant. The light in her eyes was dimming. I started a file on Mark. Just in case, a father's intuition, perhaps, or a mechanic's caution. I pulled out the file marked M. Thompson. Personal. It was already thicker than I liked. Bank statements I shouldn't have seen. Business deals that sounded shady. Notes on late-night phone calls. But the information I had wasn't enough. Not nearly enough to stop him. I needed more. I needed leverage. I needed help. I picked up the phone, dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. The phone rang twice. A gruff voice answered. "Yeah, John? It's Arthur." John was my oldest friend. We grew up together, enlisted in the army together, started the auto shop together before he retired a few years before me. John was smart, cynical, and utterly ruthless when it came to protecting his own. If anyone could help me, it was John. "Arthur, it's been a while." His voice softened slightly. "Everything okay?" "No, John, everything is not okay," I said. My voice trembled. The weight of what I was about to do settled on my shoulders. "I need your help." I paused, taking a deep breath. "I need you to help me destroy someone." I explained the situation, quickly, concisely. The debt, the threat against Clara and the kids, the $100,000 demand. John listened silently. He didn't interrupt. He didn't gasp. He just listened. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then he asked only one question. It was the question I knew he would ask. "How far do you want to go, Artie?" "All the way," I said. My voice was cold, hard. "I want everything, every mistake, every secret, every lie. I want to know where he goes when he's not with Clara, who he talks to, what he spends his money on, everything. I wanted to dismantle him, piece by piece." "Okay," John said. His tone hardened. I could hear the old soldier waking up. "I know a guy, a private investigator. Mike. Expensive, but good. He gets things done. I'll send him over." "I don't care about the cost," I said. "I need this done by Friday." "He'll be there this afternoon," John said. "And Arthur, we'll take care of this." The next morning, Wednesday, I woke up feeling a strange sense of calm. The fear was still there, coiled in my stomach, but it was overshadowed by a cold determination. I had a plan. First, I needed to see Clara and the kids. I needed to see for myself that they were safe. I needed to look into my daughter's eyes. I drove to their house. It was a big, modern place. All glass and steel. It always felt cold to me. Like a museum, not a home. Mark's taste. A monument to his ego. A house built on sand. Clara opened the door, looking surprised. She was holding my grandson, Leo, on her hip. My granddaughter, Lily, was clinging to her leg. The sight of them made my resolve harden. "Dad, what are you doing here?" She looked tired, exhausted. "Really?" Dark circles under her eyes. Her smile seemed strained, forced. She looked broken, and it broke my heart. "Just wanted to see my favorite grandkids," I said, hugging her tightly. I held her for a moment longer than usual. Breathing in the scent of baby powder and exhaustion, I wanted to tell her everything, but I couldn't. Not yet. "We're fine, Dad," she said, pulling away slightly. Too quickly. "Just busy." She was lying. I could see it in her eyes. The same way I could see the lie in Mark's eyes yesterday. I walked into the living room. It was messy. Toys scattered everywhere, a stark contrast to the sterile perfection Mark tried to maintain. Mark's influence was everywhere else. The expensive gadgets, the abstract art on the walls, the imported coffee machine. It was A's performance, a stage set designed to hide the rot underneath. "Where's Mark?" I asked casually, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "He had to go out early," she said, avoiding my eyes. She turned away, fussing with Leo's shirt. Some work thing, another lie. Or maybe she believed it. I couldn't tell. That almost hurt more. I sat on the sofa and played with the kids. I built a tower with Leo, had a tea party with Lily. But my eyes were constantly scanning the room, looking for signs of trouble. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I asked, gently, when the kids were busy playing with their toys. "I'm fine, Dad. Just tired." She gave me that strange smile again. As she reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, the sleeve of her blouse slipped down. I saw it, a dark, ugly bruise on her upper arm. It was shaped like fingerprints. My breath caught in my throat. The world seemed to tilt sideways. I reached out and gently touched the bruise. Clara winced. She pulled her arm away quickly. "It's nothing," she said, pulling the sleeve down. Her voice was high, tight. I bumped into the doorframe. "The oldest excuse in the book." "Clara," I said, my voice firm, low. The rage I felt was cold. "Don't lie to me. Did he do this to you?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head vigorously. "No, Dad. Really. It was an accident." Her voice broke. "Please, don't make a big deal out of it. He's just stressed." She was terrified, not just of Mark, but of what would happen if I confronted him. She was protecting him, protecting the lie. Even now, I had to back off. I couldn't let Mark know I suspected anything. I needed him to feel safe, secure, confident that he had me under his control. If he felt cornered, he would be even more dangerous. But the urge to protect her, to tear him apart right then and there, was overwhelming. It was a fire in my gut. "Okay, sweetheart," I said softly, pulling her into another hug. I held her tight. I wanted to take her and the kids and run. But I knew I couldn't. Not yet. "But please, be careful." "I will, Dad." As I left the house, the cold determination hardened into something else. Something darker. Mark wasn't just threatening my daughter. He was already hurting her. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about survival. I got a call from the private investigator, Mike, later that afternoon. John had arranged everything. Mike was fast, efficient. "You were right, Arthur," Mike said. His voice was gravelly, cynical. "This guy is dirty, real dirty." "Tell me," I said. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. "He's not working in real estate," Mike said. "He hasn't closed a deal in over a year. He's unemployed, broke." "Then where does he go every day?" I asked. "He spends his days at an off-track betting parlor," Mike said, "and his nights at an illegal underground casino downtown. Gambling. I knew it. It wasn't bad investments. It was addiction." "The debt?" I asked, my stomach clenching. "He owes money all over town," Mike said. "But the big one, the $100,000. It's to a guy named Tony. Snake Tony." The name sent a chill down my spine. I knew that name. Everyone in town knew that name. "He's a loan shark," Mike confirmed. "Nasty piece of work, known for breaking legs. And worse. This was worse than I thought. Much worse. If I exposed Mark, Snake Tony might still come after Clara and the kids for the money. He wouldn't care if Mark was in jail. He would see Clara as collateral. I had to neutralize that threat too. The complexity of the situation was staggering. I was an old mechanic, not a spy, but I had to protect my family. "There's more," Mike said. "He's not just gambling. He's involved in fixing amateur sports games. Small-time stuff, but highly illegal. Skimming money off the top." "Good," I said. A flicker of hope. Leverage. "Keep digging. I need more. I need everything." "Will do," Mike said. "But Arthur, be careful. If this guy is connected to Snake Tony, he's dangerous." "I know," I said. I hung up the phone. I was dangerous too. That night, Mark called me. "Arthur, just checking in," he said. His voice was overly friendly, smarmy, confident. He thought he had me. He thought I was scrambling to get the money. "Yes, Mark. Tomorrow," I said. I kept my voice neutral, calm. I imagined the bruise on Clara's arm. Good, he said, sounding relieved. Noon. Your place. And Arthur? Cash only. Small bills. Don't try anything funny. Understood. I hung up the phone. My hand was shaking. I had less than 24 hours. The pressure was immense. The weight of the deadline pressing down on me. The fear of failure gnawing at my resolve. What if I couldn't get enough evidence in time? What if my plan backfired? What if I put Clara and the kids in even more danger? Doubt crept in, cold and paralyzing. I didn't sleep that night, but then I remembered the bruise on Clara's arm, the fear in her eyes, and the doubt vanished, replaced by a cold, burning rage, a burning need for justice, for revenge. Thursday morning, the day before the deadline, I woke up early, my heart pounding. I checked my email. There was a message from Mike. Got something big, it read. Call me. I dialed his number immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Arthur, you're not going to believe this, Mike said. His voice was buzzing with excitement. The cynical edge was gone. What is it? I asked. I held my breath. This guy, Mark, he's got a whole nother life. What do you mean? My stomach twisted into knots. He's got a second apartment, Mike explained. Rented under a fake name, in a fancy high-rise downtown. And he's not alone there. My blood ran cold. I knew what was coming next. I knew it before Mike said the words, but hearing it out loud felt like a physical blow. Who is she? I asked. My voice was flat, dead. A waitress from the casino, Mike said. Young, blonde, expensive tastes. Her name is Sarah. He's been seeing her for over a year. He paused, letting the betrayal sink in. That's where the money is going, Arthur. He's not just gambling to pay off debts. He's gambling to support his mistress, to fund his double life. The twist hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just desperation. It wasn't just gambling. It was betrayal. Deep, calculated betrayal. He was stealing from me, threatening his wife and children, abusing Clara, all to maintain a sordid double life, all to impress some young blonde waitress. He was destroying my family for a cheap affair. The rage I felt was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was a cold, consuming fire that burned away any hesitation, any doubt, any mercy. But I also felt a profound sadness. My daughter's life was a lie. Her marriage was a sham. I was about to shatter her world, and I hated myself for it. But I had no choice. Do you have proof? I asked, my voice shaking with rage. Oh yeah, Mike said, sounding pleased with himself. Photos, videos, everything. I got him entering the apartment with her, kissing her in the hallway. Clear shots, high definition. It's brutal, Arthur.
And the illegal activities?
Got that too, Mike said. Video of him exchanging money with the bookies. Audio recordings of him discussing the fixed games. It's a slam dunk, Arthur. This guy is going away for a long time. Send me everything, I said. I hung up the phone. It was time to set the stage. Time to tear down Mark's world. I spent the next hour downloading the files Mike sent me. The evidence of Mark's betrayal. Photos of Mark, my son-in-law. The father of my grandchildren, laughing with Sarah, his hands all over her. Videos of him bragging about how he was going to fleece his rich old father-in-law. Audio recordings of him talking about Clara and the kids, as if they were a burden, an obstacle to his happiness. A nuisance. Each piece of evidence was a knife twisting in my gut. But it was also ammunition. I knew what I had to do. I went to a print shop. I printed out dozens of copies of the photos. The most incriminating ones, the ones that showed the depth of his betrayal. I copied the audio and video files onto several flash drives. Then I prepared the nightmare. It wasn't just about exposing Mark. It was about dismantling his entire world in piece by piece, brick by brick. Systematically, like taking apart an engine, I started with the IRS, the one organization even criminals fear. I submitted an anonymous tip online, detailing Mark's undeclared income from his illegal gambling and fixing activities. I attached the audio and video files as proof that would freeze his assets, destroy his credit, ensure he couldn't run. They'd take care of the financial side of his destruction. Next, the police. I couldn't just rely on an anonymous tip. I needed action. I needed Mark arrested. I needed the threat neutralized. I called John. John, I need you to contact your friends in the police department. I said, my voice low and steady. The Organized Crime Division. Ask for Detective Miller. I have evidence of illegal gambling, fixing sports games, and extortion. I paused, taking a deep breath. And I know where the head of the operation, Snake Tony, can be found. Consider it done, Arthur, John said, his voice grim, calm, reassuring. They've been trying to nail Tony for years. This will be the leverage they need. They'll set up a sting. They'll coordinate with you. Good, I said. The pieces were falling into place. The trap was set, but the final piece of the puzzle was the most dangerous and the most satisfying. I needed to deal with Snake Tony directly. I couldn't have him coming after Clara and the kids, even after Mark was arrested. I needed to ensure he saw Mark as the problem. Not me. I had to make sure Tony blamed Mark for everything. I used a burner phone I had bought earlier that day. I used a voice modulator app to disguise my voice. I called the number Mike had given me for Snake Tony's main bookie. Yeah? A gruff voice answered. I need to talk to Tony, I said, my voice low and distorted. It's about Mark Thompson. Who is this? The voice demanded. A friend, I said. I have information about the money he owes you. Information that will save Tony a lot of trouble. A few minutes later, another voice came on the line. Cold, calm, and menacing. This is Tony. What do you got? Mark Thompson is planning to skip town, I said, my heart hammering in my chest. I kept my voice steady, confident. He's collecting $100,000 in cash today. He's planning to leave the country tonight, with his mistress. Is that so? Tony said. His voice was dangerously quiet. I could feel the suspicion radiating through the phone. I have proof, I said. I sent him the photos of Mark with the blonde woman, Sarah, along with a fabricated itinerary for a flight to Mexico that I had created. I made it look like Mark was planning to disappear. He's playing you, Tony, I said, twisting the knife. He's taking the money. And running. He's leaving you high and dry. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. This was the riskiest part of the plan. If Tony didn't believe me, if he realized I was manipulating him, the consequences would be catastrophic. My heart hammered against my ribs as I waited for his response. I held my breath. The silence stretched on. Where's he getting the money? Tony finally asked. His voice was cold, calculating. He took the bait. His father-in-law, I said. Noon, at his house. I gave him my address. Thank you for the information, Tony said, his voice devoid of emotion. You will be rewarded. I don't want a reward, I said. I just want justice. I hung up the phone. My hands were trembling. I had just set in motion a chain of events that could not be undone. I had invited a snake into my home. Now I just had to make sure it bit the right person. But I was ready. I had my own venom. Friday, noon. The deadline. I was waiting in my garage. The smell of old grease and metal shavings filled the air. Familiar and comforting. I felt a strange sense of calm. The calm before the storm. I had called Clara earlier that morning, asked her to come over with the kids. I told her I needed to talk to her about the money, that I wanted her to be there when I gave it to Mark. She hesitated, confused, scared, but I insisted. I needed her to see the truth, to witness the destruction of the lie she was living. I needed her to witness the fall of Mark Thompson. She was sitting in the living room with the kids, looking nervous and confused. I had told her to stay inside, no matter what happened, no matter what she heard. At exactly noon, I saw Mark's car pull into the driveway. A sleek black sports car, expensive, flashy. Just like him, he got out, looking smug and relieved. He was carrying a briefcase, ready to collect his winnings. He walked into the garage, his eyes darting around, eager, greedy. Arthur, you made the right decision, he said, smiling. That same ugly, triumphant smirk, that cold, ugly smile. He snapped open the briefcase. It was empty. Where is it? He demanded. It's right here, I said, gesturing to the workbench. I handed him a large manila envelope. It was thick, heavy. Mark snatched it from my hand, his fingers trembling with excitement. He ripped it open, expecting to find stacks of cash. Instead, he found photos. Photos of him with Sarah, the blonde waitress, kissing her, holding her, laughing with her. Photos of him exchanging money with the bookies. Printouts of the audio transcripts discussing the fixed games. His entire secret life laid bare. His face went pale. His hands started shaking. The envelope slipped from his fingers, scattering the photos across the concrete floor, the polished facade crumbling away. What is this? He stammered, his voice cracking. It's your life, Mark, I said, my voice cold and hard. Your real life, the one you hid from my daughter, the one you funded with lies and threats. He looked at me, his eyes wide with terror, the realization dawning on him. What have you done? He whispered. I've done what I had to do to protect my family, I said, stepping closer. I know about the gambling, the fixing, the mistress. I know everything. Mark lunged at me, his face contorted with rage. You old fool, you ruined everything. I'll kill you. He grabbed me by the collar, slamming me against the workbench. I gasped for breath, but before he could do anything else, there was a loud screech of tires in the driveway. A black sedan pulled up, blocking Mark's car. Two large men in expensive suits got out, followed by Snake, Tony. The timing was perfect. Mark froze. He released me, staggering back. He looked at the men, then back at me, his eyes darting around the garage like a trapped animal. He was cornered. The cage door had slammed shut. Tony walked into the garage. He was a short, stocky man with cold, dead eyes. He looked at the photos scattered on the floor, then at Mark. Mark Thompson, he said, his voice soft and menacing. We need to talk. Mark fell to his knees, sobbing, the arrogant mask completely gone, replaced by sheer terror. Tony, please, I can explain, he begged, tears streaming down his face. I was going to pay you. I swear, I have the money. I know, Tony said, smiling coldly. He held up the fabricated itinerary for the flight to Mexico, the proof of Mark's betrayal. No, that's not true. Mark screamed, pointing at me. He made it up. He set me up. It's all his fault. Tony ignored him. He nodded to his men. They grabbed Mark and hauled him to his feet. Please, Tony, don't hurt me, Mark begged, struggling against their grip. Hurt you? Tony said. I'm not going to hurt you, Mark. I'm going to make an example of you. As they dragged Mark out of the garage, there was another sound in the distance. Sirens, growing louder, closer. The final piece of the puzzle falling into place. The police arrived moments later, surrounding the driveway. Cars screeching to a halt, officers pouring out, guns drawn. Police, drop your weapons. It was a coordinated operation. Detective Miller and his team had used the information I provided to set up a sting operation, catching Tony in the act of extortion and kidnapping. It all went according to plan. Tony and his men froze. They dropped their weapons. They knew they were caught. The police arrested Tony and his men, and Mark. Detective Miller walked over to me. He was tall, imposing, with a stern face. Arthur Vance, he asked. I nodded, feeling numb. We received the information about Mark Thompson's illegal activities, Detective Miller said. The evidence you provided is crucial. He's going away for a long time, and so is Tony. I nodded again. It was over. I had won, but the hardest part was still to come. Just then, Clara rushed out of the house, her face pale with fear. She ignored my warning to stay inside. Dad? What's happening? I heard shouting. She stopped, frozen. She saw Mark, handcuffed, being pushed into a police car. She saw the photos scattered on the garage floor, photos of Mark with another woman, her eyes wide with shock, disbelief, heartbreak. Mark? She whispered, her voice trembling. What's happening? Mark looked at her, his face a mask of hatred and desperation. "He did this," he screamed, struggling against the officers holding him. "Your father ruined me. It's all his fault." He was still trying to manipulate her, still trying to turn her against me. Clara looked at me, confused, heartbroken, betrayed. I walked over to her, my heart aching for the pain I was causing her. I handed her the flash drive, containing the audio recordings of Mark talking about her and the kids as burdens, obnoxious to his happiness. The truth, the ugly, painful truth. "Listen to this, sweetheart," I said gently, my voice thick with emotion, "and then you'll understand." She took the flash drive, her hands trembling. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and I knew that her world had just shattered. And then she turned and walked back into the house. Without a word, the aftermath was messy. The scandal was all over the news. Local businessmen arrested in gambling ring bust. Mark was charged with extortion, illegal gambling, fixing sports games, and domestic abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. The bruise on Claire's arm, which I had photographed, was the key piece of evidence. He pleaded guilty to everything. He knew he had no way out. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Snake Tony and his crew were also convicted, thanks to the evidence gathered during the sting operation. The illegal casino was shut down. The threats were neutralized. My family was safe. Claire filed for divorce. It was finalized quickly. Mark didn't contest it. He had nothing left to fight for. She and the kids moved back in with me. The house was crowded, noisy, chaotic. It was perfect. It took her a long time to heal. The betrayal had broken her trust, her confidence, her spirit. She listened to the audio recordings. I heard her sobbing in her room late at night. She cried for days, weeks. She mourned the loss of the man she thought she married, the future she thought she had. But I was there for her, every step of the way. I held her while she cried. I reassured her that she was strong, that she would survive this. But slowly, day by day, she started to rebuild her life. She went back to work. She started seeing a therapist. She started smiling again, a real smile. Not the strained, forced smile she wore when she was with Mark. My bright, vibrant daughter was coming back to life. The kids adapted quickly. They loved having their grandfather around. They filled the house with noise and laughter, chasing away the ghosts of the past. I taught Leo how to fix a carburetor. I taught Lily how to change a tire. They were my little mechanics in training. One evening, about a year later, we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. The kids were playing in the yard. Clara was leaning back in the rocking chair, a book in her lap. She looked peaceful, content, strong. "Dad?" she said softly. "Yes, sweetheart." "I was thinking today," she said, "about everything that happened." I waited, my heart aching for the pain she had endured. "It was the hardest year of my life," she said. Her voice trembled slightly. "But I realized something. You didn't just save me from Mark." She paused, looking out at the sunset. "You saved me from a lie." She looked at me, her eyes clear and bright, shining with unshed tears. "I was so angry at you at first," she confessed, "for shattering my world, for exposing the truth. It was humiliating." "I know," I whispered. "But now I understand," she said. "You had to break it to save me." A single tear rolled down my cheek. I reached out and took her hand. It was warm, strong. "I promised your mother I would always protect you, Clara," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "Always." She squeezed my hand. "I know, Dad. Thank you." We sat there in silence for a long time, watching the sky turn from orange to purple. The air was filled with the scent of freshly cut grass and the sound of children's laughter. I looked at my daughter and my grandchildren, safe, happy, and free, and I knew in that moment that it was all worth it. The nightmare I had created for Mark had turned into a new beginning for Clara. And for me, I was just an old mechanic. I fixed things that were broken. And sometimes, to fix something truly broken, you have to tear it down to the foundation and start over. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comment. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot because your time matters.